So we continue our study on the book of James, and today we are going to look at the tongue and how to tame it or how to control it, which is one of the toughest thing for us to do. And whether you are a Christian or a non-Christian, tongue is one of the biggest problem we all have. You know, as we have some of the medical professionals here, so I can speak very easily and you can understand. You are sick and you go to a doctor. First thing he says, put your tongue out, okay? Let me see what it is. The moment you put your tongue out, he says, okay, this is the diagnosis. So James is also like being a doctor. He tells the Jerusalem guys, the Jewish who has been scattered out of Jerusalem, come on, put your tongue out, let me tell you what kind of a religion you have. So with that mind, we will read this. James chapter 1 verse 26 and 27. If anyone among you think he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this one's religion is useless. Pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. Also, James has got quite a lot to say about tongue in chapter 3. You must have noticed in the last 6 studies, we are able to pick from here and there, throughout the book on various subjects. This is like, James is writing to them like the Jewish style. The Jewish rabbinic style is the elderly rabbi sits there and then he gives the words of wisdom to the young people, like, here and there. That's the style he has written. So we are going to pick what he has spoke about tongue in the chapter 3 as well. There are about 12 verses in that. Let me read that also. My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment. For we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle the whole body. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at ships. Although they are so large and are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot desires. Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird or reptile and creatures of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no one can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil full of deadly poison. Oh dear, what a strict words, huh? With which it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Thus no spring yields both salt water and fresh. It's quite a bit to go through and meditate upon, but the way he has put it across, it's in very easy to understand. He gives in we can understand in a way that he gives a practical examples from those days what they were using it. So first and foremost, if we don't control our tongue, then our religion is useless. That's what he starts with in chapter 1 verse 26. So, if we are going to say that, okay, um, we are doing this and that, whereas you are not doing, you are not living according to your word, that again he says, you are deceiving your heart. Last time we saw how you can deceive yourselves, that self deception, how it can be very, you can hear, and if you don't do it, then how you can be deceiving yourself. So here again he picks up on the same subject. If you are speaking and if your words doesn't match your lifestyle, that means again you are going to deceive yourself. And then he uh, goes on to say it in detail, and then he says the pure religion. If he says, okay, that means the religion what you are following is not all right. The right religion or the pure religion is you visit the orphans and the widows and the one who's not able to defend themselves. So this has been the theme throughout the Bible, helping the poor, helping the orphan, and helping the widows. It's there in the Old Testament, it's there in the New Testament, it's there in the epistles, and the early church also did that. The early church really took care of the widows, and they took care of their needs, they fed them, and they really took care of them. So we also ought to do that. That is why in our church, when we want to help poor, or when we want to help widows, when we want to help orphans, we boldly ask for money in the church. Rest, none of for the ministry, we don't ask for money, we don't ask for anything else, but we do ask for money when we want to help people. That's a principle in which the early church also operated. Apostle Paul asked for money from church in Corinth, church from Macedonia, the Philippi churches, for the Jewish believers, those who are going through big trouble in Jerusalem. So we have to understand that. That's why James here goes on to say that if you are following the right religion, that religion is to visit the orphans, visit the poor, visit the widows, and taking care of their needs. So our our religion is not in words, but in helping them. If it is in word, again we are going to deceive ourselves. So, how we control our tongue determine what kind of a Christian we are. When it comes to chapter 3, he starts with, my brethren, don't rush into become a teacher. So many people take this verse and then they will say that, no, I'm not going to teach anybody, I'm not going to share anything. Yes, you will go through a stricter judgment, and which is very much warranted. But in chapter 3, verse 2, um, he says, we all stumble. It's not few people, we all. He includes himself. We all stumble. And then he says, it's not in we stumble in few things, we stumble in many things. See, one side, yes, it is a very sobering and it is a very scary verse that, yes, I should be very careful about teaching others. But then the other comforting is that, yeah, we all stumble. We all stumble in not in few things, we all stumble in many things. If you ask me as a personal introspection, when I look at my own life in preaching, one of the things if I can correct myself, I will go back and correct some of the words what I had spoken. Or maybe the place in which I spoke, or the tone in which I said. Uh, as the year progresses, as I gain more experience in communicating with people, in understanding people's needs, and I go through in my own personal life, now I have come to have a better understanding of it. But then in the process, maybe it's a journey that I have also walked across. And I wish, I had not spoken some of the things. I'm very sure about it. Like, these days it's not only speaking. If you ask someone, I wish I had not sent that, email, or I wish I had not sent that WhatsApp, or I wish I had not sent that text message. It's like we all have that kind of a baggage. Even we all have. I can, um, as I can judge myself, I wish that I had not spoken that way. I wish I had not told about so and so to so and so. It's all happens as we learn from it. But other thing is, when we talk something without control, it not only causes pain to the person, and also it pains me as well. When I speak about someone and I cause some pain, or I inflict some pain on someone else, that doesn't go away. It does inflict pain on myself as well. I also feel bad that I have spoken that way. Uh, is As I wrote this, in the notes you see, every time I read this section of the scripture, it really causes me to have the big fear of God. To sometimes even I do tremble a bit, or if every word is going to be judged, so how am I doing as a leader? And thus the verse 1 says, my discipline will be stricter than the ordinary Christians. That brings little more pressure upon as we stand and preach. As every passing day, I'm beginning to see the awesome and a great responsibility of being a teacher of the Holy Scriptures. It's not just, empty words. It is a word that what we speak, it is God's word, and it is the onus is on God, and I am standing on behalf of God. So it puts a lot of pressure and it brings a lot of fear of God in me as well. So James gives three examples which we can illustrate how we can tame our tongue. The first one, I've got all the pictures this time. Like I was thinking, rather than writing like a Sunday school children, you will remember. The horseshoe, and many of you don't remember the the pit, what is put inside. It has got a pit, kind of like a tongue, it is there. And if you use this bit, you put inside the horse, the mouth, and then you hold, how much ever the unruly, unbelievable power of the horse can be brought under your control. When you don't have that on the horse, it is impossible for you to bring the horse in its position. I had a chance to speak with someone who had a ranch in the States, and they had the pony, and how they were training the pony and everything. And it is so interesting how the horse, the moment you put the bit in the horse mouth, and how you can make the horse to do what you want to do. Turn left, or you want to make some, especially there are horses which do, the procession riding, or they've got a jump, 3 jump, 2 jumps, and all those things are controlled by the bit in its mouth. And it does wonders, how they twist it, how they hold it, and it does such an amazing thing. So same way, if only we can put a bit in our mouth, what to speak, where to speak, what not to speak, and if we can pull it out, or if someone can pull how they are pulling their mouth, it will be much easier. Like so, that's how the horses are being tamed. And then he gives the other one is the ship. So we got a ship with a motor on it, but when James wrote, there was no motor on it. It was just a ship. That's why he uses the analogy saying that the wind is taking the ship wherever it goes. So earlier they used the wind to, accordingly only they will travel from one end to the other end. They will use the wind to make their journey. Even the Sunday when I preached about from Acts chapter 27, we saw when the wind was so wonderful, say they started set their journey, but then the wind came contrary to them. They were in the middle of the sea for 14 days. They lost so much of time. So the wind only they used it. But to make the ship to go whichever direction, all they need to use is a small rudder. Okay, so all they have is got a small rudder which you can see the under the ship on the picture on your notes, near the fan in the modern day ship. There's a small thing, at the flap, like it can turn this way, that side. That thing changes the entire course of the ship, where which direction it has to go. And that is being rotated by the rudder which is on the handle, which is on the page number 5 that you can see. That's what it is used to rotate. So it changes it, a small change, not a big change. For such a big ship, all they need is they need to make a small change. I remember reading about the Hitler brought I think something like about a 185 feet long ship, a 185-meter long ship. He had brought a warship and he was doing very well, and there was no match to what he had. But all they did is they were looking for something, this rudder, and they hit this rudder, which was very close to the thermal power or something. They hit the rudder, that's it, the ship was gone useless, and they were able to win the war very easily. Otherwise, the Hitler was winning the war in the World War time. So a small rudder can change such a big ship, like even if it is a Titanic, or the biggest ship, whatever you can see, all they need is a small rudder to change course. Even in the aircrafts, even modern day we have got the aircrafts. Those days they didn't have aircraft. You see the on top of that, all the aircraft will have the symbol of the aircraft, whichever the airline company. And that half of them is a fixed one. The little part of the second half is not a fixed one. That's a rudder for the aircraft. See, whichever direction you want to change, that small thing changes and it changes the whole course of the aircraft. The same way, the ship can be changed. So, James gives one is how you can control the horse, and second one he says how you can control the ship by a small rudder. And then he says the third one, the entire forest can be brought into such a huge fire by a small matchstick, or a small flame is enough. Some cases you don't even need a matchstick. Some two stones are being dead, or maybe two trees are being scratching and screeching, and sometimes because of the friction they catch fire. That is enough to bring down the entire forest. So James is saying, okay, these are the three things, and these three things are very, very small in nature. One is the bit is so small, which is put in a horse. The horse is so powerful, yet it can bring under the control of a man. The ship is so huge, yet it can be directed by a small rudder. And a big, huge forest can be brought in fully down by one small, simple thing. The same way you can use your tongue. Your tongue can be so evil, it can bring such a big disaster. So we ought to be careful in manage to control our tongue. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 12 verse 36, "But I tell you that men will have to give account on the day of judgment for every careless word they have spoken." Every careless word they have spoken. So sometimes when you read a verse like this, it is better to keep quiet rather than speak. Seriously, sometimes Uh, we look at, sometimes we have some get together, we are sitting and chatting, and then we end up chatting, and when it's get heated up, we go up overboard, and then we talk all kinds of, comments and jokes. Some of them is unwanted, unwarranted, and we get caught up in that moment and enjoy. But then, we end up, making fun of someone, and everyone starts laughing and joking. And I don't know, but it's kind of when Jesus says that every word that you have to give account to it. So he gives all these three examples, and then he says in verse 6, he says, the tongue is so set among our members that is defiles the whole body. So how a bit can control the horse, how a rudder can change the control the whole big ship, how a spark can put an entire forest on fire, same way your tongue can defile the whole body. Out of all our members of the body, tongue gets such a big warning in the scriptures. We don't realize. It says, so among our members defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird or reptile and creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil full of deadly poison. Wow. He says, it's no man can tame the tongue. So it is not a kind of a big warning. It is kind of, we need to realize, so that with the grace of God, so that we will be able to overcome. Because it is very, very difficult. That's why he says the man is, if the humankind was able to tame all the birds, reptiles, all the things, all the created things, all the animals have been able to, mankind is able to tame it, but he can't tame his own tongue, which is a very, very sad part of it, but that is the truth of it. Like, you can't tame the tongue. So your whole body can be defiled by your tongue. So what an important part you have. Like when it comes to eye, Jesus says your eye is the gateway to your body, what goes inside of it. But when it comes to tongue, it is about what comes outside of it. That's why he says it is a unruly evil full of deadly poison. Some of the uh, things when I do counseling with the people, uh, honestly, many people will come and say that, oh, he has got a very, very bad tongue, pastor or brother. The way he snaps at me one word, I lose everything, every respect, every love. What is the point in having a love? And he speaks like this, I don't want to live. That's the most commonly words I hear, because it's easily we can snap somebody just like that by one word. Yeah, I know about you. I know this is what will happen. Something like that you can be very dismissive of. As I, worked in the corporate levels, I had a bit of an attitude. So I used to be very, very dismissive of people. Very much. Because time is very, very essential and crucial as I was growing up and I was in the corporate ladder. So I have to make decisions. So, yeah, that's it. Okay, you are fired. Finished. Next. What else? Okay, you can settle the dues and you can go home. I have to go to the next meeting. Is there anything else you want to say? Or maybe sometimes, these guys will be tears in their eyes, or maybe they may be. I used to be very, very arrogant, very dismissive. But it took some time for me to learn. Thank God I learned it, but it was in the initial stages, it was very bad. So it is very unruly. It's not that, the same thing, you can do it in a nicer way. It's not that what I did was not wrong, the way in which I did. That's what, you can say that, frequently in our Asian culture, what we find is one of the problem is the food. So either you have got a salt is so high, or your hair is on the food, or something like that. So, but you can say that in a nicer way. But you can say it in a way that it can take the complete joy out of it. We got to learn that. It is. It's not. We don't come with that. It's a skill we need to learn, because the Bible very clearly says it's an unruly evil. It's not just a evil, it's an unruly evil. Today we have seen the bomb blast in Brussels. It has taken only 36 lives. But the deadliest thing is our tongue. It has taken more people's life. It has taken more people's joy. It has taken more people into depression. It has taken more people into so many troubles. So we need to realize that. And it is full of deadly poison. Deadly poison. It brings death. So we need to realize that. That's why in Matthew 15:33, Jesus says, "Now what goes into your mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of a mouth, this defiles a man." No, that's not right. Okay, Matthew 15:11, not what goes into the mouth defiles a man. Okay, what goes inside does not defile the man, but what comes out of your mouth defiles the man. So whatever comes out of you can defile you, not what you eat. And I know there are many people uh, are taking this week as a holy week, in the Anglican calendar, Lent, and they defile them. They keep themselves away from meat or chocolates or wine or alcohol or some kind of a thing. 40 days, it's good, absolutely fine. I really appreciate if you're making some day as a special day and you're taking time. Truly, we appreciate that. But then, what more important is, Jesus said, what comes out of you is more important than what goes inside of it. So that's why I always say that, when many people come and ask me, "Brother, pray that I want to speak in tongue." I always tell them, "Are you speaking in your mother tongue well? Then you pray for a mother, then I will pray for you for a tongue." Otherwise, first you learn to speak your mother tongue well, then let's speak the tongue well, okay? So many people come, always ask me this, okay? So our tongue always shows off what we really are. What does your tongue reveal about you? That will reveal. Because I'm sure that I put the scriptures. No, it's not there. Okay. Uh, Luke 6:45 or Matthew 15:34, it says, "A tree shall be known by its fruits. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." So the mouth doesn't speak, out of the abundance of the heart. So what you are is really shows through what you speak. So what does your tongue reveal about you? Are you being patient and long suffering? Will your talk show that you are being kind, or you are bearing all things, or hoping all things, or enduring all things, and rejoicing in the truth? Or is your tongue showing that you are not rude, or you are not puffed up, or you are not jealous, or you are not provoked, or you are not thinking no evil thoughts. It is very important. So, as I opened up my comment, again I will say that you have to show your tongue to see what is the diagnosis to the doctor. The same way, whatever words comes out of your mouth will we can diagnose what kind of a person you are. So men have tamed every kind of creature, but we need to tame our own tongue. So James goes on to say that your tongue cannot be used for both the purposes. One to praise God, other one to curse men who are created in the image of God. I always find it very difficult. The Christians, the so-called Christians, they come, they lift up their hands, praise the Lord, hallelujah, singing, holy, holy Lord God Almighty, and finish the service, get into the car, yell at the wife, yell at the son, yell at the children, and speaking all abusive stuff. That is absolute nonsense. It's better you don't practice that kind of a religion. It is so rampant. People do all kinds of That's why I say that we sing most lies on Sunday morning, because as soon as we finish the service, everything comes out as unbearable. And I really wonder, see the reason why it is. I've been really looking at it. The reason is many people use or think the church where God is. That's why the whole problem is. They think the God lives there. So when you get into the car, you think God is inside the church. He is not in the car. That's why we do all these kind of things. That's a Old Testament kind of living. The New Testament, that's why I'm so particular that don't make some place in the church as a special place. I'm very, very particular about it. I sometimes when I visit a church when nobody is wearing a shoe, I wear the shoe and go, and I will offend them so that they will understand that this is not the old covenant church. God is not here. God is everywhere. Because it's a small thought, but it encroaches your life so much. Because it's a when you are going to say something, doing so to both the things, that blessing and cursing is not right. The reason why is you think that God is in some place, God is not everywhere. That's a understanding you come to. Here also he gives two examples so that we can easily understand how you are not to have both. Okay, let me read from verses 9 to 12 once again. With it we bless our God and Father, with it we curse men, who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or grapevine bear figs? Thus no spring yields both salt water and fresh. In these three verses, he has got two brethren. In verse 1, he starts with brethren. You see how many times he puts brethren. So he's putting little sugar coating on what he is saying. You see that, his heart. Okay, I'm going to tell you something really hard, rudely and bitter and very harsh thing I'm going to tell you. But so you don't get so much on me, brothers. So three brothers in such a short nine verses. He says brothers three times so that brothers don't get offended. Okay, I'm telling you something harsh so that it will help you to grow. You see that thing, huh? So how can you bless and curse with the same tongue? We think that, okay, I am not a prophet. I am not a big pastor. So it doesn't matter. So that's why I always tell my sisters, okay, when you are at home, how do you talk to your children? You know, when you open your mouth, kaluda, chaniya, nai, panni, or those kind of stuff, and then you say, oh, thing, all those things. When they open up their mouth, they curse their children like, very dismissive words, very bad words. We shouldn't be. We shouldn't tell that. The same way the husband treats the wife also. In our Asian culture, we see so many things. It shouldn't be. We should make sure that we are treating everyone with the dignity, with love, because every one of them made in the images of God. And secondly, it's not only our home, anyone, any human being are made in the image of God. Whether he knows God or not, whether he is walking with the Lord or not, he is made in the image of God. So we are to make sure that we are not cursing. We are not called to curse. We are called to bless the people. So we need to make sure that we cannot speak that way and it is not permissible. So he gives two examples. The first example he gives, how can a spring give salt water at the same time? So we know you go to any place, you take water from the spring, either it will be sweet water or it will be a salt water. It can't be both. So the same way, either you can speak sweetly or you can speak harshly, but you can't speak this time once, that time once. There's no, I always remember we used to live in Indonesia. We used to have a place called Chaitar, just outside Bandung. That place had the volcano erupted in 1970s, and still that hot water is coming. And the springs comes from that. It's so still warm there, and it comes such a boiling water comes from that, and it's full of sulfur smell. It comes, and there are some people who have got the skin disease. They can go into that water because of high sulfur content, and you can't have shower straight away. That it's so boiling water. So they will mix with the, this spring will come. They will mix with that other spring, so that you can have bath in that. They mix in the place so that you can see the salt water, the hot water comes through that, the cold water comes through that. Then it mixes, then you can have a bath. You can get it all right. And I had a very interesting experience that they sell eggs. So you can take the eggs, put it in the basket, and then keep it on the water, boiling water, keep it for a minute, and it gets cooked just like that. So hot, it's so much of boiling water. It's so hot, it comes. It's still running for how many odd years? I think 1970 or 69 it came, the volcano erupted, and more than 25 years, still it is coming, and you can smell the sulfur about 20-30 kilometers before the springs itself. And it's quite a tourist spot. So that will always give that kind of a water. It can never give a good water. So if you are giving a sweet talk, you should always give a sweet talk. You can't give one day, okay, morning 9 to 10, I'll give a sweet water, 10 to 11 to 12. It's not a traffic, okay, morning everybody is going into the city, so there are 3 lanes to go. Evening, the coming back 3 lanes, going in only 1 lane because everybody is coming out. You can't turn that way. So it has got to be, either you got to speak sweet or you got to speak that way. And the second example he gives, the tree and the fruits. He says, fig tree cannot give olive, and grape wine cannot give fig. So whatever the tree, that's what it will produce. So if you are in the image of God, if you are a Christian, then your talk, your tongue should reflect who you are. It can't be mix and match. It can't be mixing. It can't be one time you can't be speak like a Christian, the other time you can't speak like non-Christian. You should be always your language, the words comes out of your mouth. It's got to be always the same. Here, the Luke 6:45 it says, "A good man out of good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks." So, what you speak, it is from inside of you. So, there has got to be a change inside of you. Then your tongue will reflect what the internal change which has come into you. So sometimes we may not feel like speaking good things. So those days, those times, I would always say simple 3 words: keep your mouth shut. Finished. Just zip it up. Don't open. Sorry, I don't want to talk. I'm thinking something else, so I don't want to talk. Or maybe there are between a husband and wife there is an argument. There's something comes up. You can say, "Give me some time. Let me calm down. I will talk to you later." So you can say that, and then you can avoid. Maybe the other person will always say, "Now I want the answer." So you should say, "It's okay. Don't worry. After half an hour, you'll get the answer," and you walk away. Practical way. So how can we manage this? I borrow from Psalm 39 verse 1. "I said, I will guard my ways, lest I sin with my tongue. I will restrain my mouth with a muzzle while the wicked are before me." So always the wicked will be before you. So you have to restrain yourself not to speak. Just don't set a guard over your mouth. I guard my ways. Okay. So psalmist prays. So we should also pray that way. In Psalm 141 verse 3 says, "Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips." So if we can pray that, "Okay, Lord, every word that comes out of my mouth, let it bring glory to your holy name." And I want to pray, "Oh Lord, guard my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Let my words not make me to sin against you. Let me not fall into any kind of a sin. So please, oh Lord, guard me." So that way we will be able to tame the